What happened. Make a long story short, the officer, when the pursuit came to termination point after the suspect crashed, he took his pistol out, which is the way that we are trained in terms of dealing with felonies, the suspects, a felony stop. In order to initiate a felony stop, the suspect did not adhere to his commands to stop and took off on foot. At that point, the officer, consistent with his training, reholstered his service pistol and took out his taser. One of the things that we allow in the Austin Police Department to mitigate a foot pursuit is the deployment of the taser to stop the fleeing suspect. We do that for the suspect's safety, but to me, more important is for the officer's safety. You know, we've had foot pursuits in the past where our officers around the country and here too have been killed and come close to getting killed. In this instance, as the officer was pursuing the suspect on foot with his taser out, the suspect at one point slips and falls as he's turning a corner with wet grass and some loose leaves. The officer continues in direction towards the suspect, and his own momentum kind of created a difficulty for him to stop. At one point, the officer hears a distinct click that he recognized was the firing and discharge of the firing pin. As the officer came around the corner, he heard what was a distinct sound of a click, metal click that he recognized as a discharge without a dry discharge, I guess you could call it, and the firing of the pin, of the firing pin, without either A, a bullet in the chamber, or B, a defective round. The officer, recognizing that, repositioned and saw immediately that the suspect had a pistol, a semi-automatic pistol in his hand, and was attempting to charge it. I want to make something real clear, because some folks are thinking that the officer didn't use deadly force, A, because he chose not to use deadly force because somehow he's trying to save the suspect's life. In this instance, the officer made a split-second decision based on the tactical situation. Split-second decision based on the fear. He feared that if he took the time to drop the taser and transition to the deadly force, that the suspect would have been able to rack very quickly and get rounds on him. The officer successfully discharged the taser, striking the suspect with both prongs, causing the suspect to drop the firearm about 3 feet away from the officer. The suspect then tried to move again, so the officer discharged the taser with a full 5-second application and additional time. At that point, the suspect pulled one of the prongs from his leg, out of his leg, forcing the officer to run up and put all his weight on the back of the suspect. As he did so, the suspect continued to struggle, at which time the officer did a contact stun or a dry stun on the suspect, and luckily, fortunately, we had backup officers arrive on the scene at that moment and take the suspect into custody. Again, this is a situation where there is no doubt in the mind of my officer and in my mind that had that stolen gun had a round chamber, our officer would very likely have been shot. And quite frankly, I'm very proud of him because he found himself in a life or death situation. And I kind of agree with him that potentially, had he taken the time to transition instead of using what he had in his hand, that he may not have gotten his service pistol out in time and deployed the deadly force. Based on the totality of the circumstances, I think it's clear to just about anybody that sees these, that reads this or sees these circumstances, that the officer would have been completely justified in deploying deadly force. And I think we're very lucky as we stand here today that we're talking about a suspect that went to jail and that we have an officer that wasn't shot and seriously injured or killed. With that, I'll open it up to any questions.